Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today on Masechtas Beitzah daf Lamed. We are going to begin on the bottom of Chaf Tesmid Beis by the new Mishnah, the new parak. Kamevi kadiyayin memakom amakom. A person on Yom Tov is bringing items of wine from one place to the next. And Rashi says betoch hatchum or al yedei erev. So there's no erev issues. We're not bringing anything beyond the tchum, but you're bringing a lot. And because of that, lo yavim besal uvekupa. You're not allowed to put it in a basket of sorts, which is very large. And Rashi says, lase shalosh v'arba betoch kupa. You're putting all of this into one basket. And the issue is, the nira kamasa dechoil, lases masos, that you're bringing these big packages. So therefore, it doesn't look like a proper Yom Tov activity. It's an issue of Uvda Dechol. It looks like a weekday activity. Therefore, what you could do is maybe you could put it on your shoulder or lefanav, or you carry it in front of you. In other words, you carry a small amount, and therefore it has the appearance that you're doing it for the needs of Yom Tov. B'chein, and so too, hamoylich as hateven, a person who is transporting straw, and he's using it to use as firewood or for animal consumption. So lo yavshil as a kupa achorav. He shouldn't throw it over his shoulder. Says Rashi, the genai yomtiv, because it looks like it's a disgraceful thing to do. Shenir kemischavin l'malacha rabba. It looks like you're engaged in a hard work. You throw it over your shoulder and you're carrying this straw. Abu maviyahu biyado, you can hold it in your hands, and that's acceptable. Umaschilan, as we continue to the top of Lamed Amud Aleph, ba'aramat hateven, and you could also take from a new stack of straw, as Rashi says, v'lahasek, and you're using it again for some type of firewood of sorts. V'alpapi shaloz zman mebod yom, even though you didn't really designate it from before, it's okay. It says Rashi is mashma delately muksa. It must be because there's no issue of muksa. Muksa is that something which you did not designate and has been out of your mind, so you're not allowed to use. The fact that you can, according to this part of the Mishnah, says a ramas hateven is allowed, must be this Tana does not hold as an issue of muksa on Yom Tov. Of a little bit eitzim shiba muksa. He says, but you're not allowed to use the wood from the muksa. Now, the word muksa does not mean as we're familiar with it. Rashi says it's referring to rachava shachri abatim. It's in the back of one's home. That area is called a muksa. Why? It says Rashi, v'chol davar she'in daito litoil ad zman merubah. It's referring to anything that a person will not take until maybe a long time. So something which is way in the back of your house, that area is considered a muksa. Now, you're not allowed to take that wood. Now, the problem is this line, Rashi says, is mashmid islay muksa. So how could it be, the Mishnah, really the same line, says you're allowed to do a ramas hateven, which means straw that you don't even have any intention to use before Yom Tov. It's not, there's no issue of muksa. So if that's the case, then why do we say avalub eitzim shema muksa? You should be able to use it because apparently this Tana doesn't hold of muksa, but clearly the fact that you can't use the wood from your backyard because it was not something that you designated from before, mashma that they do hold of muksa. So which one is it? So we're going to have to understand how to read this Mishnah. So Tana, im efshel lishnais mutter. In that case, in the event that, let's say, you have no choice, because as Rashi says, bizman orchem harbe, you have a lot of guests. You have to bring a lot right now because there's a lot of people waiting for you. So then we are lenient. Iskin rabim b'mechuza daru beduchka l'daru baragla. He says that whatever you did on a weekday, you should do things a little bit differently. For example, someone who was daru beduchka, one who carried on his shoulders with daru baragla, he should use like a pitchfork. Says Rashi, Masoy she'adam yachid noisei al kseifa b'chol b'toyrich. Person puts it with difficulty on his shoulder, then he should do it Baragla. Rashi says ater, which is referring to a pitchfork. According to him, you have to do things a little bit differently to show it's not udadachol. So for that matter, the dar baragla, things that you would use a pitchfork for, would dar ba'agra. You should instead carry it agra, as Rashi yisu b'yamtiv b'shnei b'nei adam b'moit al kisvehem. You should have like a pole that two people put it on each of their shoulders, and you carry it that way. The daru ba'agra, if you have something that's the way that it's carried, then l'daru ba'achba, then you should carry it in your hands. The daru ba'achba, if you have something which is normally carried in your hands, then nifreis sudraleha, then you should wrap a kerchief around it. Rashi says lasniya, in order to not publicize what you're doing. The imo asher shari, if there's no other choice, there's no, for example, Rashi says she'in lo suder l'chsai, so you don't have a handkerchief to cover it up, so then we allow you to do it. It's not a problem. The Yomer Mar, im iyef shalishtos muter, Amalei Rav Chanan bar Rubble Rav Ashi, Amar Rabbanan kalma de'ef shalishnuim mishaninan b'yoyim metava. The truth is, the Rabbanan say that as much as you're able to change things up a little bit from the way that you normally behave on a weekday, that is what a person should do on Yom Tov. So, based on that, Hani Nashi, when it comes to these women, the Kamalian Chatzvaihu Maya B'Yom Tava, they gather up water in these pitchers, they gather water from the rivers on Yom Tov. So, in that situation, V'loi Kamishaninan, they don't change the way that they behave on a weekday. They do it the same way on Yom Tov. But for some reason, we don't say anything to them. We should be telling them they should do it with some type of a shinoi. As we said before, if there's no other way, then it's allowed. So what do you mean dulu efsher? So what do you want them to do? What is a better solution? So should we say the mali b'chatzva rabba that they should fill it up with a big pitcher? So tamli b'chatzva zuta, then you should use a smaller pitcher. Then in that case, masha behilucha, they're going to end up taking more steps, because if they need to bring 500 ounces of water, so it would be less of a tircha to use a bigger pitcher, because that bigger pitcher holds more water, and therefore you won't have to keep going back and forth. On the other hand, the mali b'chatzva, if they usually use a big pitcher, the mali b'chatzva zuta, they usually use a small one. Tamali b'chatzva rabba, you want to tell them to use a big one. If that's the case, so kamashi b'masui. Okay, fine. They may not be carrying it as much, but the truth is, it's much heavier, so that's going to cause more exertion. So we don't want them to do that either, if that's their custom. The chazeh b'nachtama, maybe we should cover it up, says Rashi, kisui shel eitz, with some type of wood covering of sorts. Zimdin the nuffle, it falls, v'asle asuye. They may end up carrying it, and obviously this is referring to they're not supposed to. So the question is, okay, tiktare. So why don't we say that they should tie it up? Zimnin de mafsik, maybe the knot will get undone. The asi lemiktare, they may end up tying it out and making a kesher, which is an av malacha. So we don't want them to do that either. So tifra sudur alehas, maybe we should put a handkerchief, like we said before, on it. Zimnin dematmish b'maya v'asli de schita. Maybe it's going to get all soaking wet with the water, because it's covering up water while they're walking. It may splash on it, and they may have rachamim on it, and they want to squeeze it out. So it's just schita. Hilkachu afsher. So even though you're right, we would normally want to change things up, but over here, changing things up will not make it better. Sometimes change is not a good thing. Normally, Rabba Barav Chanin Labaya Tnan Ein Metavchin Ve'ein Mesavkin Ve'ein Maraktin. A person is not allowed to clap or to do dances on Yom Tov. Rashi says when you clap, it's a shir umishum avel. You're not allowed to do that. You're also, again, you're not supposed to be dancing. Rashi says, "V'kulam nemru nesru mishum shvus gezerah shema yiskin kli shir," because if we allow you to use to dance and to clap, and which is like sounds like you're making music. So you may end up taking a musical instrument which is broken and fixing it, which is of course not allowed. But in the they clap, they dance. We don't have them do anything. So you have an issue with that. Bahadi Omer Rabba that when you're in a mavoy, and let's say you made a shitufi mavot, and therefore you can carry in the mavoy, so it's surrounded by three sides. The fourth side's open to Rosh Hashanah, and you have a lechi or a kaira, a horizontal or vertical beam, as we learned in Masechtas Eruvin. So we don't want you to sit right in front of the lechi, because obviously Dilma migander lechefetz v'asli esui dal namas Rosh Hashanah. Let's say you're holding something and it rolls out of your hands. All of a sudden it pops in the Rosh Hashanah. You're not going to be thinking about it because you're right there. You may end up carrying. These women, they take their pictures and they sit exactly in this location and no one says anything. Ella. Which again is questionable exactly when do we say this concept, but better that a person should do something b'shogeg than to tell them when we know they're probably going to do it anyway, and they'll end up violating this thing b'mezid. So better that they shouldn't be informed of everything, and therefore they'll only be on a b'shogeg level. Okay, or ignorance is bliss. V'hani mili b'derabbanan. The only time that we're going to have such an interesting approach is only when it comes to din d'Rabbanan. Oh, but Deraisa low. We would never do that when it comes to a din Deraisa. That's not true. We still won't say anything. In addition to Yom Kippur, in which we fast for 24 hours, ask any kid, it's a 25-hour fast, right? Says Rashi, you have to start fasting once a day. It says you have to fast on the 9th day. So one of the two answers to the questions in Yoma, it's also in Brachos, is that, what do you mean? We don't fast on the 9th, we fast on the 10th. But Tosefes Yom Kippur means that you already have to start fasting on the 9th. So what do we see? Tosefes Yom Kippur Deraisahu. And people are eating and drinking until the last second. So therefore we see when it comes to din d'oraisa. Question 5, question TA5, same thing. Question 5 is like this. So one of them again is clapping and dancing. You can't say clapping is one, dancing is one. No, that's one. You can't sit in front of the lechi. And the third one is Tosefes Yom Kippur. Okay. Which again is the almost identical question to question TA5. It's interesting how the questions are written over here. Listen to this. It says, Be'elu Beis Devarim, Shekil Metzinu Shamru Mutav Shishagim, and it puts in parentheses, excluding the clapping one, right? So they're not allowing you to use the clapping and dancing choice. You have to use a different one. Okay. So now we're going to understand this line. Again, we said it seems like a stira in our Mishnah. You can use a new stack of straw, which l'chari means you don't love muksa. So Rav Kahana Zayis Amaris maschilin ba'oitz tchila. So we see from here again, you can use this storehouse for the very first time, even though you never even intended to use it, and therefore mani Rav Shimon he delaysli muksa. It must be that our Mishnah is like Rav Shimon. So Ema Seifa of a little bit etzim sheba muksa. So it says you can't use this type of a wood because it's out of sight, out of mind. So therefore I tell Rabbi Yehuda the Islay muksa. So which one is it? Do we hold like Rav Shimon or hold like Rabbi Yehuda? It sounds like our Mishnah is split. So the Gemara gives two answers. Hacha be'arze v'ash v'cheaskinan. We're talking about this type of special high quality cedar wood, and because it's high quality cedar wood, the muksa machmas chisaron kiss. We have to Rav Shimon maida. It's not when Rav Shimon doesn't hold a muksa. It doesn't mean he doesn't hold a muksa at all. Gemara in Shabbos actually talks about 5 or 6 different circumstances. Here we're going to see 2. So when it comes to muksa makmas chisaron kis, something which is of tremendous value, and it will cause a major monetary loss if it gets damaged or lost, so that item is considered to be muksa. Even he agrees to that. And therefore, this cedar wood, which is used for building and construction, even he would hold that that's muksa. So that's how we understand it. The aroma satevin is allowed. This is whole Mishnah's Rav Shimon. So straw is no big deal, right? Unless you're a pig, you're not going to build your house out of straw. So that is considered to be, in fact, muksa, even according to the shita of Rav Shimon. So Rav Kahana, so it's mashma, there's an issue of muksa. Somebody rehudahi, these lay muksa. So in Maresha it says maschilin baramas atevin. After Rav Shimon the leisling muksa. So again, it's the same question. They just flip it. So Gemara says like this: Hasam betav nesaria. Here we're talking about tevin, the straw, which is spoiled. Tav nesaria hachazilatina. So he says if that's what it is, it's fit latina. It says Rashi latit lilvan levanim. It's good for cement. The isbe kaitzin. It has thorns, and therefore Rashi says ein yochel legavlo biyad barago. If you can't use your hands or your feet to mix it to make it into cement, because you'll end up having millions of thorns all over your hands and feet. So therefore, this is something which is totally has no value. So that's the issue. It says Rashi, tav netzaria nirkov amatzriach she'in royal meichel behema. It's not fit at all. The stamala eitzim, it's obviously for firewood. V'lo lachila behind the oitzer. That's what it means, l'otzer, because there's no other purpose for it except for the firewood, and therefore that is why we're saying by baramas atevin that that's allowed to be used, because it's used for firewood, and that's what it was designated for, because you couldn't use it for your animals. Question TB7. Fine. So the two answers, as we said, was like this. Either the whole Mishnah is like Rav Shimon. Rav Shimon does not hold a muksa. However, the Sefer, it says Eitzim ha'oindim levana lebinya. It's for building, and that's a muksa ma'aksar kiss. Even Rav Shimon holds that is muksa. Or really, the whole Mishnah is like Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda holds everything as muksa. So if it's muksa, then why does he allow aromas hatevin? Well, that should not be allowed. Bereisha b'tav nesari the easily kaitzim. We said that it's spoiled, it has thorns. It is fit for eitzim, for wood, and therefore that's why you're allowed to use it for that purpose, because it's really designated for that sake. Okay, let's continue with the next Mishnah on Lamed Amud Beis. So the Mishnah says as follows: Ein noitlin eitzim in a sukkah. Normally, when we hear sukkah, we think of a sukkah on sukkahs. So the person's allowed to take wood from a sukkah, ela min hasamachla, only that which is near it. Says Rashi, what is a sukkah? Kigon pesach batzeres. It has nothing to do with a sukkah that we know on sukkahs. It just means a hut that a person would sit in during the other holidays as well. The yoshev sukkah, legina, or pardes, that you sit there. It could be in a garden or an orchard. No, ein noitlin eitzim in the sukkah. So you can't take anything from that roof. You can only take stuff from around it. The Gemara Parich Hasasar Ahala. The question is, how could you take anything on the sides or near it? You're dismantling the ohel. We'll discuss this. So Maishna min sukkah delo. So the Gemara asks, why when it comes to a sukkah it's an issue? Because you cannot remove the roof. So min hasamachla namika sasar halal. You shouldn't be able to remove anything which is around it either, because you're also dismantling it. So Rabbi Yehuda Mishmul, my samach ledefanos. It means near the walls. Says Rashi Kivan shelo ne'ergu ima daifin. It wasn't woven with the wall. Lo batel legabi daifin. It's not batel to the wall. It's not part of the wall. So therefore, it's not like it's near the schach and it's like on the wall and it's woven in. No, it has nothing to. It's totally disconnected. therefore you can use it. Rav Nashi Omer Afil Tema B'Shein Samuch L'Defanos. It's not even talking about the walls. Kitanya Hahi. When do we say this din is bias varyasa? We're talking about a bundle of reeds, and therefore that is acceptable. Tanya Rav Chia Bar Yosef Kamei Rav Yochanan and Neitel Etzem in a sukkah. You can't take from the roof. Elam in a samachla. Rav Shimon Matir. Rav Shimon apparently allows you to take even from the roof itself, which again, l'chayra, fine. He doesn't hold a muksa, but again, you're being soiser the ohel. How could Rav Shimon allow that? B'shavin b'sukkah achag b'chag shasura. But they all agree that when it comes to sukkahs, the actual sukkah itself, the schach, cannot be taken off at all. And Rashi says, "Afil b'chol shemoyed," because it's considered to be huksal mitzvasa. It's not just muksa, not muksa. There's an additional issue of huksa or mitzvasa. That when something is designated specifically for a mitzvah, you have to use it for that and not for something else. If you made a condition before Yom Tiv, then it's okay. Rav Shimon matir. Rav Shimon is lenient. How could he be so lenient to remove the roofing, but you're dismantling an ohel? That he doesn't allow. So of course, if it's up, you can't start ripping the roof off because you're removing an ohel. That you're not allowed to do on Yom Tiv, even according to Rav Shimon. But it's talking about the sukkah actually fell down, right? That this hut fell down. Now the question is, can you use it now? So Rav Shimon Tamei, delay say muksa. He doesn't hold it's an issue of muksa, even though it was up there before, so it's not a problem. The Sanya, Meiser Hashem and Shibaner Shibikara Aser. That when it comes to the leftover oil that's in a nair, it doesn't mean a candle, but the actual holder of the oil, or Shibikairo, if it's in a plate, it is Aser. Rav Shimon Matir. Rav Shimon says that is not an issue. So even though you have this leftover oil, so you would think, since it was lit before Shabbos, you're not allowed to use that extra oil. Now, it's extinguished already, but the question is that oil was designated to be burned, so you can't use it anymore on Shabbos. Rav Shimon says it's not an issue. It's not an issue of muksa. So midami, how can you compare the two? Hasam, over there, Adam Yoshim Asapia, a person sitting and waiting. Imasai tichve nero. When will this candle extinguish? So therefore, when it extinguishes, I can use the oil. So he really was hoping to use the leftover oil. As a person thinking, oh gee, I can't wait until my hut falls down. Why would you anticipate that? So Rav Nachman Yitzchak, yeah, it could be it could be one which is very weak and wobbly. You already had das from yesterday, the possibility that it was going to fall. And then it says v'shavin mesukas hachag b'chag she'asura. That even Rav Shimon, who doesn't hold a muksa, but this is another circumstance that he'll say you cannot use the schach. V'im hisna leha kol afi tonight, unless you made a condition. So mimahani made tonight, does a condition work? V'yomer Rav Sheishis mishum Rabbi Kiva, as we saw in Masechta Sukkah, which is actually the second on Daf Tes, which is the second Mishnah over there. He says as follows. He said, Mishum Rabbi Kiva, and then Rabbi Kiva. How do you know that it comes to the wood of a sukkah, Shesur Kol Shiva, that you're not allowed to use the wood all 7 days? The Chag of sukkah is 7 days for Hashem. Just like there's sanctification that's placed on the Chagiga, namely the Shalmi Chagiga, the carbon, that once you're makdashit, it becomes aser. Kach, so too, Chal Shem Shemayim al Sukkah, that once it's a sukkah, that's it. You can't use it for anything else. So how is it possible that if you made a condition, that it would help? You can't make a condition on a carbon. You can't make a condition on a sukkah. When we're talking about making condition if it falls, that's talking about a sukkah in general. As we said on Pesach, on Shavuos, of a sukkah the mitzvah lo mahani but tanah. You're right. On sukkahs itself, a condition will not help because it is aser, because it's huksa mitzvasa. Even Rav Shimon agrees to that. The sukkah, the mitzvah lo, is that true that when it comes to the holiday of sukkahs, you can't make a condition. Vasanya. Sacha kihilchasa. The person made the sukkah properly according to halacha. It's at least 7 by 7 tefachim, 10 tefachim high. Everything's beautiful. The atra, but you decide to adorn it with different noise sukkah, big kramim, rasidim, hamitsuyarim, with different tapestries or these colorful pictures. The tolbe goizim, shkedim, afraskim, rimoinim. You hung up nuts. Again, it's interesting. Just like we saw in yesterday's daf, we also use the same examples, afraskim and rimoinim. It doesn't mention esrogim. Uparchili anavim, yeno shmanim asalasais, clusters of grapes. You have flasks of wine and oil and flowers. Yato shivolim, and again different stalks. So the Maharsha Shiva explains that this notion that it's almost like you're making it into like Gan Eden. Because what do you mean? Why are you hanging up fruit? Strange. So it's like you're reenacting Gan Eden. So also a stopik mehen, you're not to use them ad moitzi yom kippur, ad moitzi yom tov achron shel chag, until Shmini Atzeres, when Sukkot is over. But it says you could make a condition on this. It works. So by Rabbi Nemer the Omer, it's only because the person said any boidel mehem kol ben hashmashos. When it came to these decorations, specifically to the decorations, to the noise sukkah, as long as before Yom Tov you say, I'm not removing myself from them. In other words, even though I'm hanging them up, I am allowing the possibility that I still want to use them for my own purposes. The loichal kedusha layu. Their kedusha did not fall upon the decorations of all. Ati sukkah the chal kedusha layu. When it comes to the schach, it doesn't make any difference. The kedusha is already there. So the skatzu shiva becomes muksa for the 7 days. You can't use it. So ma'ishnamaha ditmar. How is it different from what we learned? Here for shivas, roigim with shivas, hayomim. Let's say you have 7 esrogim for 7 days. You just love the mitzvah, so every day you're going to use a different esrog. So omarav hakoyel achas v'achas yotzeba b'yochli altar. You could fulfill the mitzvah, and then you could eat that esrog right away on that day. Rav Asi Omer kol achas yotzeba b'oichel machar. He says no. It's not just for the mitzvah it's designated, but for the entire day. So once that day is passed, even though you already did the mitzvah with it, you can't use it for the rest of the. You can't use it for your own purpose of that day, but you can use it the next day. So the question is, how come over there we have this notion of allowing it? So Hasam over there, Damasku Leilos Miyamim, because there's a hefsek, there's a difference between days and night, because you can't shake the lulav and esrog during the night. So because of that, Kol Chad V'Chad Yomim Mitzvah Bapi Nafshehu. Each one is a mitzvah by itself. Hacha the Mitzvah Leilos Miyamim. However, when it comes to a sukkah, the mitzvah just continues. It doesn't stop. It's day and night. So because of that, where there's no interruption, the lo mystical leos miyamim kuhu yom kachadi yom richtadami. Interesting. Like we were learning in the beginning of this Masechta, Rosh Hashanah is Yom Richta. Sukkot, all 7 days of Sukkot is Yom Richta. This obviously doesn't mean it's like one long day, but it means it's continuous. It's continuous. And therefore, once a person has designated for that first day, that made this as his sukkah, schach, that's it. And then he has to be used for that, and it cannot be used for anything else. Let's stop here. Question 6. Elu beis mini muksa. Amr b'gamar de'moed Rav Shimon de'asurin. So we saw in Amud Aleph that even though normally he does not hold a muksa, but he holds a muksa, as we said, muksa makmas kisar and kiss. And on this stuff, we say when it comes to the mitzvah of Sukkot, that Sukkot hachag bichag on Sukkot, that there's an idea of huksa l'mitzvah, that even Rav Shimon holds that is considered to be an issue, and there's an isser muksa on that as well. Ad kan.